Hey everybody, we're live with a quick live stream here from the lobby in East Denver. We've got Metaversal, who's going to be interviewing a series of guests. We'll bring on with a surprise. So if you just stay at the live stream, you'll be seeing different people. It's pretty loud out here with my mic, but we've got a better mic set up for the interviews. So thanks for tuning in. We know what's going to happen. Enjoy the conversation. And I'll be in the background just making sure everything doesn't fall apart. Okay, let's uh, let's get this going. So let me switch over the microphones.
Welcome to the live stream, Luxo live stream from East Denver, Hotel Indigo. I'm here with Steven. He's the wallet developer here at Luxo. We had a really good conversations while we're here. Had some fun last night at the East Denver opening ceremony party. So yeah, we're here to talk about kind of the developments in Luxo and what we've been doing here. How have you been enjoying your time here?
Oh, it's great. I've been having a really good time. Yeah, the last years I've been so kind of busy with coding and just kind of like had my head in the laptop. So it's really good to have some social time and yeah, talk with the community members and talk with you and find out some of the projects that are going on that are related to what we're working on.
Yeah, it's been really cool getting to know you now these last few days, and it's been interesting talking about the things that you're working on and um, like how how important do you feel like these events are like for the community and for Luxo in general?
Super important. Super important. I mean, like when we're building, we have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of sense of the features that need to be built. Obviously, we take a lot of direction from Fabian. He's got this, amazing vision that we're all building. But it's when we talk with the community members that we get that. That's the thing that creates that feedback loop, and that's when I really learn how people are actually using the apps and finding out what the things that they really like about it, which is very motivating. I can bring that to the team and like, hey, these things that we've been working so hard on are working really well. And then on the other side too, like things that aren't working so well, things where people are getting stuck, and features that people desire. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the cool things was like right when I got here, actually, I saw Steve and he was working, and it was basically like jumped right in there. It was like you have feedback about the wallet, and I'm using it a lot, right? So I was like, yeah, there's some bugs here and there because it's still in development, and he jumped right in there and like started just working on it and hacking, and it'll be exciting to see kind of those developments come to life. Can you talk a little bit about like what you're working on specifically on the wallet side with you and your
Sure.
team?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. There's some surprises coming up.
Okay.
But the thing that we're really working hard on right now is backup and restore. So yeah, I mean, there are a couple of recovery options that are available right now. But we're working on a backup feature where you can actually back up to a file. And this has been something that the community's been asking for a long time, for a couple of years, and we're really trying to like increase the trust in the app so that people can use it not just for small things, but they feel a lot more comfortable to use it for bigger things too.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what we were discussing, like naming the different controllers?
Sure. Yeah. So one of my kind of pet peeves of the mobile app and the extension right now is the word controller. And yeah, nobody actually knows what this is. I mean, internally on the team, people know, but like in general, people don't really know what a controller is. And so one of the things that I really care about is having a really, really great user experience. Like my kind of rule of thumb is that I want my parents to be able to download the app and know how to use it. Like that's like kind of like the golden standard for me. And we're nowhere close to that yet. Like we compared to where things were a couple of years ago and where a lot of other wallets are, we've made like amazing progress, but we're not quite where I want to be yet. So like the controllers, that's something where a lot of people don't really know what that is. So I've had this idea that I want to actually get rid of the word controller, and I want to replace it with terms that people are familiar with. Like instead of controller, we should call it apps and devices, because that's basically what a controller actually is.
Right.
And then I have this idea that the permissions should be as simple as they are like on an iPhone. When you install an app, the iOS will prompt you like, hey, this app wants to use your contacts or wants to look at your photos or something like that. And then the user can say like, oh, I trust this app to look at my photos, or I don't trust this app to look at my photos. And everybody understands this model. I think the mobile app should be that simple. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm excited about. One of the reasons why I follow Luxo and basically became a fan of the project was this goal to abstract away. I mean, I think you have to really approach your product from thinking from the end user's perspective. This is something that, like Apple, for example, did very well. Just have to think about that end user experience. So if we can actually get there, I think it will put us into a new plane in terms of crypto adoption, basically, right? And it feels like we're getting close to that. And like the whole industry in general is moving towards that goal, right? And Luxo's been working on that with that ethos, since the beginning, So
Yeah.
So I know, there's a little bit of discontent out there in some of the community that things have been moving more slowly than we would like to. There's always deadlines, right? That kind of get pushed out, which is a normal thing in development. You have to expect that to happen in projects. But on the ground floor, I'm not seeing that, right? I see everyone working hard. I know the team is not. It's not like we're working with like Apple. We have like thousands of employees, right?
Yeah.
But you want to talk a little bit just about, is that just a misconception? Like people they're just seeing that from the outside because they're just not on the ground floor, and how are we addressing that, and are we moving faster as time progresses?
Well, first of all, one thing that I like about the community is they have high ambitions. Like they have a lot of things that they want. And I love that. Like I think that it's good to have a passion. We have a lot of passion in our community, and sometimes it gets expressed in different ways. But I wouldn't want to be part of a boring community, So we definitely don't have a boring community. And I think the question that you asked about the controllers is actually really good, because one of the things is, we're doing something that has never been done before. So these things take time, and it's not something where it's like we just kind of, it's like if I've worked on a lot of different apps, very standard apps like advertising, and like I worked on a education platform once. These things, the models are very clear. You kind of know what you're going to build going in. Obviously, you have to kind of figure a couple of things out, product-wise. But it's like there are already so many standards out there for those types of platforms. What we're doing here, there's no standard. Like we're inventing things as we go that have never been done. And so the first version is always like not quite right, and then we have to iterate on it like over and over and over again. So the first version was like we tried these controllers. Like there's never been something like iPhone app permissions done on chain before. So we started with this controller thing, and then we realized like people don't know what that is. So we thought, okay, can we try to maybe educate people about what a controller is? And no, it's too complicated. So eventually we start to see like there are other ways to do it. There are other metaphors that we can use that people are familiar with, but these things take a lot of time. So that's a big thing that causes things to go very slowly because we we don't have all of the answers to begin with. And it's also at events like this where I get to talk with community members, where I get that feedback, and that's the thing that creates that feedback loop where we realize that people are struggling in one area or they don't quite understand something.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. To me, it feels like just following the progression of Luxo that, we had to figure out this, like you were talking about standards, right? So we had to figure out how everything was going to work from a standards perspective. And so there was a lot of development that went on where it wasn't necessarily about the app layer, right? It wasn't necessarily about the front end, right?
Right.
It's about figuring out your foundation, right? I think
Right.
that's something that a lot of people miss, or, people want everything to go instantly, right?
Yeah.
Like in crypto, when your mainnet launches, a lot of times what happen is you'll have like a lot of apps built out and everything, you know what I mean? But from my perspective, what Luxo is doing is opening up a whole new world of innovation that we're allowing people to explore if they come and develop on top of Luxo. So we had to create this base layer, and that took some time, right? But what I see things speeding up over time. Like the grid took only like a few months
Yeah.
to implement. So can you talk a little bit about maybe from your perspective, like do you see that being like like that's going to continue, kind of almost like this exponential curve where as we have more of the pieces of the puzzle, kind of like if I'm building a puzzle, right? At first it's really hard, but as it fills in, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the team has a lot of synergy. The team's always had a lot of synergy. But like I said, on one level, we're doing things that have never been done before. On the other hand, we're growing. Like we're growing. Like for example, on my team, um, when I first came in, I've been working on the apps almost 2 years now. And when I first came in, um, there was a really good proof of concept for the browser extension and the mobile app, but they weren't production ready. And so a lot of the things that we were building, like the code base itself, was like a little scattered because at that time they were just experimenting a lot, right? They were trying out all these new features. They were like coding it really fast, um, but I think one thing that people don't realize is that the browser extension and the mobile app, they're very complex applications. There's so many different parts. There are transactions, there's account history, there's assets, like we have a wallet and a mobile app. There's the whole social side, there's controllers, the transaction screens, and all of these things are interoperating together. And each one of these systems by itself is very advanced. So one of the things that the team has been like I've been really kind of guiding the team on is how to take all of these complex these areas and like modularize them and be able to look at them, like kind of understand the individual parts and the big picture and how it all fits together. And this is something that it doesn't come natural, I think. To This is something that I've luckily had a lot of experience in some of my previous projects that I'm able to bring the skill and teach my team how to do that. And they're doing it. Like one of the things that I love about my team is they're super passionate. Everybody that I work with believes in the project, and this is what allows us to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, even though we're a really small team, we have 4 developers basically working full time on the mobile app and the extension, which are 2 major projects, like 4 developers. Um, we get like, we're hustling like crazy,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and these guys are learning how to do things better, and therefore we're starting to see less bugs. We're able to get some features out, and I can only see this like we have to fix a lot of things that weren't working well, but as we fix more, the code base is in better shape, and then we won't have to do then so many refactors. We can just focus more and more on new features, which is the thing that the community really wants. Like, the community doesn't care if we're, you know, rebuilding something that's already been done. They want to see something new that they can use.
Yeah, I like a couple things that you said, like that the everyone's passionate. I think that's really important in your work. That's really what's going to drive you to success in the end, right? It's just like I've talked to, I don't know, probably 100 business owners and CEOs, and the one message that everyone always says, and even Fabian would say the same thing, is you have to follow your passion. But when your entire team and your whole entire community is passionate, it's like having an NFL Super Bowl winning team, because you have to bring all the parts together, and they all have to have like one focus and one goal, So that's one thing that I've experienced being here in East Denver. Is just like, there really is a true like excitement and passion in the community, and that's not something that you can buy. I mean, I went to a couple other events that were like empty, and they're like trying to throw money at things, But I think when you have true innovation, and you have a real visionary founder, like I love how Fabian's such a visionary founder. Like really inspires like that kind of a community.
Totally.
But do you think if we hired more devs to work on the wallet, that would help, or is it kind of like, too many cooks in the kitchen?
That's a good question. It can go both ways, honestly. So I think the main stretch that we have right now, the thing that maybe we could use a little bit more help on, is we have so many different products that we want to create, and Fabian's got a backlog in his head of so many other things that he wants to build. And I think one of the things that people might not realize is we're a super small development team. So altogether, like every product, not just the extension of the mobile app, but like the grid and myup.cloud. Oh. Is it okay? Okay. So yeah, I like everything that we're building, like myup.cloud and now Universal everything.io. There's only 12 developers building all of this stuff, and most of us are building multiple products. So I think sometimes I think probably it wouldn't hurt if we had maybe one more developer on the apps. But sometimes actually adding developers can slow things down because there's a learning curve involved. There's and then it's hard to coordinate everything. So it could go either way. I think what would really help us to have more developers would be that we could actually build more products and get other products out there that we've been really wanting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for talking with me about this.
Yeah.
I'm like super excited to see what develops. Like if you're curious, you can go to the App Store and you can download Universal Profiles, download the wallet, set up a profile, and you can click on the little icon at the top, go to Universal Everything, and you can see, we're not there yet, kind of still in an experimental phase, but if you want to follow the progress, that's a good way to do it. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too.
We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
If you don't want to be in the shot. Hey, everybody. Adding the stage, coming back. All right. That's not what I want. Yeah. While we prep another guest, I'm gonna take this to a blank kind of waiting screen, play some music, and then we'll get our next guest up for you. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying these impromptu. My monitor's terrible. Hold on. Hopefully, you enjoy these impromptu guests that are coming up here and chatting about universal profiles. The echo was so bad in my ear that I couldn't focus or concentrate. We got Vega Genesis stopping through. Oh, the man behind Junior. Actually, go ahead, Pippin. Let's see. We got Connor. We got Kriegel right here. Alt is off screen because there's a Sly Fox in the room. We've got James from Family, Jordy from Mistaken Verse. We have Lucian, the managing director of the foundation, and others, and actually Annalisa, who I need to go with to return some DJ gear real quick. So I'm gonna take this just to a quick stop. The speed won't stop, but we're just gonna put up some media assets just so you didn't have everything. We'll be right back. I'll play a little tune, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll be back with another guest. All right. So streamer. So I have this. This is going to be full screen. So,
All right, we're back. It's Metaversal here at ETH Denver in the hotel lobby, Hotel Indigo. I've got Lucien here, the managing director of the foundation. We were out at the ETH Denver opening ceremony last night. He was DJing. It was awesome. It's really cool to see the team representing Luxo, and I felt like it was a really cool way to kind of like get our name out there. We were able to get our advertisement up thanks to you. And how did you enjoy your experience?
It's amazing. Thanks for hosting this and for coming along. Great time here in Denver. It's a great event yesterday as well. Good way to spread the word what we're about. Intercept of Web3 and creator industry, right? So that's what we are, and glad that I can help, with my music also live that vision.
Yeah, it's really cool that you're doing the DJing and you're working hard on. You're basically helping on all fronts. What first got you into music?
Yeah, so it's a story that started in my childhood. So I was always quite a nerdy kid, playing with Lego and then playing with computers, like assembling computers. And my mom one day said, like, you're too analytical, you gotta also work on your creative side. So she sent me to music school at age 6. And I hated it. It was like a traditional classic education in Italy with singing and dancing and interpreting classical pieces. I learned how to play different instruments. And eventually when I was 14, I quit. I was old enough to take my own decisions, but then actually I started listening to electronic music, and where I grew up in Italian Alps, there is not much to do except for nature, so we started organizing our own little parties. And somebody had to play the music, and that was me. So I started playing on the computer with the software, and that stick with me also during my university years. And then during the pandemic, actually, with my best friend and flatmate, we got some equipment, initially with the idea of hosting other artist friends, really for after or pre-parties. But eventually, we just started jamming ourselves. And then one day, an event organizer who we helped restructure his label with, who was suffering from COVID, and he didn't attract a good crowd anymore. And we happened to have a nice community already, just by being out and about. And yeah, so basically he asked us to host the secondary floor and to play there because he knew that we had an equipment. So that's how we started. And then after that gig, we came up with an artist name, Nexus, which represents a little bit our identity as well, right? It's different elements that come together and create something new, like synergy, right? And that has been the start. So the first year we started at playing internationally, and yeah, here we go 4 years later, still going hard on the music.
Yeah, it's actually it was actually really cool to be a part of that, you know, and just kind of watch you play, and then have Annalisa too. She's doing 6 different performances tonight, and it's actually a really cool way to actually get the word out about Luxo as well. You know, it really gives just like this, like, I don't know, this really cool sense of community. You know.
Does.
Yeah.
Does totally. It's all about the community after all. We're building on this all together, and what better if like we ourselves are showcasing, you know, we ourselves at the intercept of art, music, and technology, right?
Yeah, in a way, that's what, you know, Luxo is all about. You know, bringing in creators, right? So if you've got, you know, you're trying to get your music out there, you can set up a profile, and you can put all of your socials and everything on your grid, and you can even put your videos, and you know, and you can stream, and
you can get tipped.
Yeah, exactly. You can get tipped. Yeah, I've definitely sent some tips to people. You know,
so cool.
So how important do you feel like these events are to like the growth of Luxo?
For me, it's essential. So when we were strategizing about how we want to handle events forward, since the foundation started also doing marketing late summer last year, we came to the conclusion that the best way for us to attend these events is actually by doing you know, small-scale events, activations, but then bring along our community, and as a big team, then try and tackle these different, you know, events and be present and spread the word. And then also after the DEF CON, we already saw like great positive results. So for us, I think it's more efficient to kind of do this together with the community than to just have a small booth and our logo somewhere in the corner of the conference. And it's also super important to be here all together, because on one hand, obviously, we bond all together, we get to know each other better, but then also there is so many ideas that sparkle by having here people from the tech team, from the foundation, and also from the community. That's, I think, where the magic is happening here, literally in this lobby this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I've noticed. I mean, you could spend, you know, $60,000 or $100,000 putting up an advertisement or getting a booth, and it's cool because you get your name out, you know, out there, but it doesn't really create that like sense of like community and belonging when you're out there and you're DJing and you're just like talking to people. Like, it creates a connection that you don't. If you're standing behind a booth, you know, it's just kind of like this barrier, right? But if you're just out there having a good time, I mean, I've had at least, I don't know, 10 conversations with people just being like, you know, behind the stage and you know, listening to the music, and people are feeling good about it, and they form that emotional connection with the project, which is like how you go, it becomes like a viral thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's really what I like about Luxo, is I see this virality that is possible, you know?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been obviously, crypto has been not doing well lately. You know, Bitcoin's been going down, Ethereum's going down, a lot of altcoins have been suffering, and there's, you know, a little bit of FUD out there in our own community about the token price. Can you talk a little bit about that, and like what are we doing to you know, to help, you know, promote Luxo that might, you know, help us turn that around?
Yeah, sure. I think obviously the macro picture paints a certain picture at the moment, which has not been too positive, unfortunately. Yeah, everything has been going down. I'm glad that on a relative basis, our token price, even though going down, has been holding up quite well relative to ETH and then some other altcoins. Yeah, so that's where we stand, but obviously it is painful to see the token price go down so much. Now, obviously, what do we do to, do something to support the price? I mean, first of all, for sure, it's about checking the intelligence, the market, right? So, and then from the foundation side, we try to to pay out the expenses that we have as much as possible in stables or in fiat to reduce the number of parties that sell LUX. Because like that you can better support the market in a way, because if it's less parties selling into the market, then it is supportive, because you can be more strategic about it and have less or no price impact, which is obviously the goal of the foundation. By all means, and what we do there is we observe trading volumes, and then obviously we derive from what we think will be possible to sell to the market without impacting the price. And that kind of determines the budget, what we, on one hand, what we really, plan with. Besides that, I think it is all about transparency, right? So especially in such a small market, which is, I would say it's an inefficient market, right? You're perfectly aware of the macro picture and of how markets work. So, there is the different versions of markets, right? Being inefficient or moderately efficient or perfectly efficient, right? And right now, Bitcoin has become more and more efficient as a market, but I would say that the smaller the market, the more inefficient it is. And this is kind of where technical analysis still kind of has an edge in a way. On one hand, on the other hand, it's all about having more information out there. That's kind of what makes a very inefficient market more efficient. And that's why, what we're going to do now is, or what we're going to start doing is AMAs, right, with the foundation, so that we really share on a monthly basis of what we're up to, what we've accomplished, and and it should be an open format. People should be asking whatever it is on their heart, obviously in the right tone and the right language, but that's the goal. So last time was well attended. Would have wished for some more questions from the community, so that's maybe a small call to action for the viewers. Just don't be shy and just put your questions out there, and happy to answer them. And then obviously these are being recorded as well on X, and then as a kind of follow-up, what we also plan to do is then kind of revive our newsletters as well, right? There used to be a time where Luxa was doing newsletters. This is now in the foundation, so we're trying to migrate the old newsletter into a new format. And you can expect, I think, in the next very few weeks after September, because Steam is here as well, so a first newsletter, and we want to do this also on a periodic, ideally monthly basis.
Yeah, that's really great. I think transparency is really the key, and it's difficult to do sometimes to have when, I'm sure you guys are a relatively small team, and you're probably wearing a lot of hats, So, but I do think that AMAs can help a lot with that. And if you just gave the community a little bit more time to ask questions and kind of just kind of have an open format, just, hey, ask me a question, you know what I mean? And I think that would really help a lot. I know that Fabian also talked about how they're trying to come up with more of a display of the vision for like the future. Are you involved with that at all, or do you know?
So maybe just to repeat, this is like two different avenues, right? There is the foundation with its vision and its mission, which is derived from the deed of the foundation, which intrinsically means like support, grow, and enable the ecosystem, right? And from that, everything is cascading down to the different streams we do, to the different strategies and the tactics. Obviously, there's a big overlap, because while we do that for the blockchain as a generic, neutral base layer, universal profiles are the prime application, right? And this is what Fabian is doing. He's, with Universal Everything, focusing on building out, on one hand, mandated by the foundation, the standards, maintaining the blockchain as well, because we don't have the capabilities in the foundation as of today. But besides that, he builds also out universal profiles and many more things, which some of them might be, revenue generators in the future. And that's where he now, because he is very young as well, so that's what he means with building out the vision. That's kind of, coming from the product side, and from the UE side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously we talk a lot. We talk a lot.
Yeah.
So directly, I might not be involved too much, but indirectly, since we're all working so much together, indirectly, yeah, I would say for sure.
Yeah. It's too bad he couldn't be here today. So, my understanding is that he does look for outside investments for the company Universal Everything, and that's something that he's also working on as far as bringing in, more revenue streams into essentially Luxo to help out as well, right?
Yeah, it's I would say just from a corporate perspective, it makes sense to diversify a little bit, your source of funding, He's self-funded, and obviously we also have an SLA with the foundation for the tasks I described earlier to you for the maintenance of the blockchain and some of the LSP, development. But yeah, obviously, the more different sources you have, the more anti-fragile you are, right? Which is good in tough times, to be resilient and not have all of your eggs in one basket. So that's good. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, Lucien. One thing that's really cool is that you speak 5 languages. He's also a DJ, and he's working full time on Luxo. So we have the amazing luck of having him working with Luxo. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Luxo live stream. I'm here with Jonathan Lee of Growth, and we're here at Hotel Indigo in the lobby. I've had a really good time getting to know Jonathan these last few days. He's a very busy guy, running around trying to help the Luxo ecosystem make connections and integrations. So how you doing?
Good. Both running on 3 hours of sleep, so
yeah,
I'm sure it will show.
We were up late last night trying to push the Luxo message and vibing as a community, you know. So
100%.
we're running a little bit of lack of sleep, but that's how these things goes, right?
Yeah. Gonna cherish these moments though.
Yeah.
I think it's been very blessed, you know, to just have a chance to like connect with the community, everyone coming together, you know, putting a face to a name.
Can you tell me a little bit about how important you think that these events are for Luxo and for, you know, building that community and, you know, just spreading the word, and, you know, how important is it for us to actually go to these conferences?
It's pretty important because like within the Web3 space, especially among developers and people working in Web3, it's almost like a mecca, and ETH Denver is definitely one of those conferences, just because I would say for this year it's probably going to be the second largest one, aside from Dev Connect, which I believe is in November. So, a lot of people make the summit up, finally meeting all the people that you met virtually, in person, and really building a deeper, more kind of authentic relationship than you can oftentimes through messages on Telegram and and on calls, right? Yeah, extremely important. Like when I think back to some of the projects or integration partners or developers that have come into the ecosystem and have like taken the effort to integrate and work with the team in a deeper way. The vast majority of them were through, kind of an in-person introduction, or you bump into someone and you end up having a really interesting conversation until like 3 in the morning, really vibing out on and sharing, what they're seeing in the space, and how the technology is evolving over time, and how do we, fix a lot of the problems that we see in the space, right? And sharing each other's vision, and getting a really aligned from that perspective. And so it's quite crucial. I know sometimes it's not that obvious and doesn't seem that way, but yeah, I mean, from my vantage point, and I'm sure a lot of the team, especially on the developer side, yeah, very much share that view. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more, like what it is you do as head of growth, and what connections you've been making here that are basically in line with your mission as the growth leader?
Yeah. In terms of the developer ecosystem right now, it's still quite early, I would say, for Luxo.
Right.
A lot of these products or features are rolling out, quite a few in like quick succession over the last year, right? With universal profiles, the standards, now the grid, airdropping tools, tipping,
Right.
the custom provider, which is huge for the UX and UI of the chain, and being able to easily kind of log in. And so, but outside of that, there's a lot of different pieces that developers need, right? Like RPC providers, indexers, a lot of these, developer kind of like tooling that's required to make the onboarding and ease of development on the chain, a lot easier, right? Or if you're building something like a DeFi protocol, you need oracles on the chain, right? And so oftentimes it's not something we can build, but there's someone else who's building the infrastructure, the picks and shovels to make that come to life for builders who want to build a specific type of use case, right? So yeah, that's obviously a focus, onboarding developers that want to build, DApps, whether it's a full-blown application or even a mini app on the grid, onboarding those type of developers is important. And then of course with Luxo, it's not all tech, right? It's about social culture and creators, right? So I would say for this time coming to Denver, onboarding artists and really having them understand what they're building, what we're building at least, how they're able to empower and have more sovereignty in how they communicate to the world, be able to monetize, and make a living off, their creative work, I think is really important, right? And so, great example with that is we organized Resonate yesterday, which I think you were there for a part of it, where there's already a lot of very creative people within the music space working in Web3, right? They're doing DJ gigs, on the ground. And so, we had the idea that, given everyone's in one place, why don't we bring those people together, right? Because they all have that creative aspect to them, and they also understand the tech. And so if we can facilitate those conversations where it's not just solely on the tech, right? But it has that cultural kind of music and social component to it. And we can create some evergreen content, which is actually engaging, where people actually want to like learn about an artist's journey and how it relates back to the tech, right? Which you don't see a lot of that kind of educational content. And so for us, that's a pretty that was a focus for us, to create more educational content that's engaging, that kind of involves other spaces, especially in the creative space, just to kind of spread the gospel, if you will, or educate people around the cross section of innovation, tech, culture. So that's one example. Spoke about this before, but we think Asia is a hotspot, either for bringing in new community members or on the developer front. It's a hotbed of very talented, technical kind of developers, right? If you look at, industries like gaming, like half of, the market share of gaming is in Asia, right? You've got countries like Indonesia, which is the fourth most, populous country in the world, and they've kind of like leapfrogged in the sense of being, mobile first, skipping that whole, because financial inclusion is a huge. They don't have the same kind of like rails or infrastructure from a financial services point of view, right? So the fact that Web3 adoption and wallets has really taken over there, it's ripe for a large amount of users who are really curious about technology and interfacing it, right? So and then on the developer side, like you have countries like Vietnam. It's an amazing, especially in Hanoi, you have a lot of very technical developers there. And it really comes from the fact that, and we had a panel on this the other day, but it really comes from the fact that like a lot of these countries in Southeast Asia, as the cost of labor was going up in China, you had a lot of these tech companies start to move the production into places like Vietnam, right? Which nurtured a whole generation of people who, are very familiar with tech, mobile development. And so that kind of bled into the blockchain space as well. And in that particular region, people are more, open to trying new things and adopting new technologies. And
how do you feel the response has been? Because we had that event with the crossover between Luxo and Asia.
In Asia, yeah.
Yeah. Have you been able to, get some penetration and some interest for building on Luxo, or any kind of integrations or partnerships that are starting to come from that? I know I think there was a DAO, right? That's
APAC DAO.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
So
want
we
to tell
actually,
us about that?
yeah. So Nicole is the founder who led APAC DAO. She's based in Vietnam, but they're focused across, the whole kind of Southeast Asia region. And so she's worked with a lot of protocols and, very connected in that space. So, given we had an event booking for Social Everything, we had to rent it for the whole day anyways. So one of the ways we thought to, nurture some of the relationships we had in Asia was to bring in, APAC DAO, who was looking to expand into the US in the Western market, right? And so, blocked off 3 hours for them. We both brought speakers that we knew from Asia and in the US, right? Because we were in Korea last year, Japan, and so, yeah, a lot of different projects that, kind of came together and shared their thoughts on, how US companies could break into Asia. What are the things they need to think about, because it is very nuanced in terms of the go-to-market for each and every single one of those companies, and then the other way around as well. So it's this, kind of brainstorming and figuring out of how to approach, two very different markets
Yeah.
Well, and there's all the mini markets within
Is it,
within each one, right? So
Is it possible to
yeah.
make these connections like, online, or is it like pretty essential to have it in person, like at a conference? You know what I mean?
It is, but it doesn't go as deep,
Right.
right?
You don't get that human connection.
You don't get that
right?
human connection. And
Yeah.
so, for example, tonight, Zerion, really well-known kind of Web3 wallet, which we've met multiple times, um, they're hosting, kind of like a cocktail hour from 9 to 2. They were initially just gonna host it on their own. They already booked the venue, took care of everything, but through, our relationship with them, they reached out and said, hey, if you guys are able to, we know you just hosted Resonate, curated a great group of DJs. You obviously have DJs on your team like Lucian and Elisa. You guys could take care of the music. We'd love to partner with you
Yeah.
and launch this together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this is how we're doing a lot of these events now, where
Yeah.
it's more.
It's like
It's-
the way that I look at it
Yeah.
is like guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
we have DJs on the Luxo team, which is really cool,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
Luxo's all about community and artists and creators and brands,
Right.
And so I remember I was standing backstage while Lucian was playing, and there was some guy, over to the right of me. I just started striking up a conversation with him, and I was like, he's a musician. He does like digital drumming, like on a board.
Right.
And I have a music background too, so it kind of hit it off. And I was like, yeah, we're here with Luxo. Have you heard of Luxo? Oh yeah, I've heard of Luxo. You know what I mean? Cause
Yeah.
that's how you kind of spread your community, right?
Yeah.
Other artists that you talk to, and there's just if you saw some advertisement for some company, you know what I mean? You might have brand recognition,
Right.
but there's nothing like that word of mouth, right?
Totally.
That's one of the cool, exciting things about Luxo is that you really it goes deep, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It becomes an emotional
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah, and the crowd we're able to curate and bring together at some of these events is not necessarily a crowd that other projects are able to, right? So if we can bring that to the table, we put in sweat equity. We bring in the right people that they're able to, they want to expand into and connect with. It's something that's at the end of the day, we want to add as much kind of value as we can to partners, and that's why oftentimes they're happy to work with us. And
can you talk a little bit more about because there's been a lot of, I should say, in the past, discontent about like Luxo just throwing money in the wind, like throwing parties, and like you see some big party and you're thinking, like if you're like someone just on the outside and you're just thinking like, wow, Luxo do this big party and they probably spent $1 million on this party, right? Right, but I mean that's like a misconception that's out there, I think, that has been out there, right? And it's like if you do have to pay for it, like we had the Luxo banner up when Lucian was playing.
Yes.
And a normal cost would be like $25,000, for example, or something like that. But 20,000, right?
Yeah.
But it only cost us like 2, right?
Yeah, and that's because Lucian had a really good relationship with the organizers, is DJing as well, and they really love what we're doing and the vision that we're building out right now. And so oftentimes, and we're super grateful for that, right? Because we're still a new chain.
Yeah.
Things obviously in the market is tough, but for a lot of projects also. But
can you talk a little bit more about the other things, like when we booked rooms here, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the most expensive hotel, but we were able to put 2 people in a room, to cut costs, you know what I mean? Can you talk a little bit more about like, to me it looks like Luxo is trying to keep costs as low as possible. But
we're
being
super scrappy and efficient with with some of that stuff.
But being very
still
effective.
thoughtful.
But being very effective at actually the reach. Can you talk a little bit more about how Luxo is going about that and keeping the cost as low as possible?
I mean, and this is permeating to a lot of things we do, but okay, fine. So specifically for events, the status quo for a lot of projects is, well, okay, there's a conference coming up, right? These conference sponsorships are very pricey, right? For mid-tier sponsorship, where you have a booth and a keynote, and you have maybe 800 touch points over that, in terms of people coming to the booth or watching the keynote, it could be upwards of like $60,000, right? Top tier is like $100,000, right? And then, but that's what the whole space is like used to, right? And I think that there is a time and place for that, where you have to do it for the first time, get that exposure, get the brand out there. But I think we've matured to the point where, we've gotten a lot smarter with this stuff, right? So instead of doing that, hey, why don't we spend a fraction of that and actually bring the community in? Because now you have the synergies of, not just the team on the ground, right, but the community and the synergies of them discussing, what they're building, how they're using the tech in interesting ways, how they could potentially work together, and then also communicating that to the outside world as well, right? And then they're also, interfacing with the team on what's getting developed, what's, what are some things coming down the pipeline that could be interesting for their application that it's
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that,
Yeah.
It's good to see that Luxo is being able to be efficient,
Right.
and, get the most reach for the amount of money that you're spending. Because that's important for any business, right? You have to, be mindful of your costs,
Right, right.
And
then
so,
what's cool is that, if the projects are at the events now, and there's different integration partners that are, working with us in hopes to onboard devs over, right, to use their products, because it's valuable. Well, now they get to speak with the different projects on the ground as well, right? So, yeah.
And then
It's
yeah.
it's
And you guys are also, as far as I understand, is trying to bring in more DeFi into Luxo, right? I met a couple people that were working on a lending protocol.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit like what the efforts are on that front?
So liquidity has always been an issue at Luxo, and we recognize that, and I think a huge part is the fact that we don't have the core DeFi primitives, right? Because centralized exchanges is a pocket of liquidity on one side, but you need that on-chain aspect of it as well, right? To be able to bridge funds over so that, keeps the economy going. Because at the end of the day, yes, we are a chain for social, but there's also a token that's behind it, that is used for gas and, for staking, etc. And so, not having those DeFi primitives, we're not even talking about anything crazy. Like we want to, a full DeFi ecosystem, but not having those primitives really is not ideal, for liquidity, which is super important, right? And so, obviously we have the two-way bridge that's progressing really well, right? That's going to get launched, but there's already projects building within the ecosystem around. So we have a DEX, which is universal swaps. That's great. Second one coming, that's not an AMM model, but an order book model. And they're very aligned with kind of like social and cultural tokens on that side. So we've made sure, they're kind of in line with the vision of social DeFi, which we discussed in the past. Then we need a lending protocol. So we have, a very strong team out of Lisbon. And then, they've been quite active in other ecosystems, but they're pretty excited about doing an Aave v3 fork, on Luxo, and exploring, taking it to the next level after the initial deployment's been done, right? You have Jordy, for liquid staking, with staking first. There's yeah, a launch pad coming, which they've already fully integrated LSPs. They're going through the audits right now. Yeah.
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 And they provide a whole suite of tools for, projects that want to launch on Luxo, and there might be a token related to their project, but then we're missing all the tools that interface really well with LSPs that allow you to do liquidity locks on dexes, or vesting smart contracts, all these different pieces. If you were to ask projects to create one from scratch themselves, that's super inefficient, right? And so, we're bringing all these protocols that have really robust sets of infrastructure to nurture that. And then I would say the last part is also there's a incentive kind of mechanism protocol. They work with SushiSwap, Arbitrum, a lot of DYDX, a lot of different ecosystems on that front. They're integrating as well. So then we can kind of roll that out and also incentivize people to bridge funds over and all that, and really roll it out in a gradual way. For that sustainable kind of growth.
That's like
Yeah.
That's like super exciting. As someone that's been following Luxo for a really long time,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Liquidity has been an issue, and the way I kind of see the ecosystem
Yeah.
for a social blockchain
Yeah.
is that we don't want it to become just DeFi, right? That's
No.
not. We're trying to create this.
I mean, we're still very much focused on
right.
the social and culture,
Right.
but we cannot, ignore this aspect
right.
of the ecosystem.
But the thing is,
So,
any business needs the foundation layer, which
100%.
is the money, which
Yes.
is you got to bring in liquidity.
Yeah.
And then the way that I see it is that the things that blockchain allow you to do are really integrated with the money side of things. Because like the innovation between the tokens and the DeFi with the social is what gives you that explosion of new utility.
Yeah.
Of like if it wasn't for the social, if it wasn't for the DeFi, that utility wouldn't really be that broad. It wouldn't be as amazing, right? But when you combine those two things, you can create all these really cool new innovative things that you actually just cannot do on Web 2.
Yeah.
And so that's the really cool thing about Luxo is that it's bringing us into a new S curve, I like to think of it, in blockchain, where if we can break through that barrier, that we're going to have this Cambrian explosion of just new, cool, innovative things that we haven't seen on Web 3 yet. Just because of the standards that Luxo and how it brings everything together kind of opens up this whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah. Because
So.
one of the promises of blockchain and social is creator monetization.
Right.
How do you do that without, the proper traffic lights, roads, that core infrastructure on that side?
Right.
It's a huge selling point for creators, and that's what we're trying to disrupt, right? So you have to have that basic infrastructure for people to even, disrupt that space.
Right.
And it's still all towards social and culture, but it's an essential piece that can't be ignored.
Right.
So.
Cool,
Yeah,
man. Well, I'm like super.
Tons of stuff cooking, but I mean,
there's
that's one part of it.
Yeah. There's so much going on, I think, in the background. So it's cool to have these conversations so that people can, have an inside look and, like not just wonder, like, you guys are spending all this money, right? Like, no, it's going, like, the team is working hard, and the team is, making connections. And
try to do it more partnership focused.
So, and the DeFi is coming. We have the bridge coming, and it feels like we're this locomotive that's start slow, but is speeding up, and the faster we go, like the more exciting it is, and I'm just super excited to see where this goes.
Likewise.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Glad we got to do this, and hope we get to do it again.
We'll be back.
Amazing.
All right, Metaversal here. We're back with James from Family at ETH Denver. He's actually my roommate right here. We're staying together. So I've had a cool conversations about his project, and we've been hanging out and having a good time. How's your experience been so far here at ETH Denver, hanging with all the Luxo crew?
Oh man, it's been nice seeing everyone, not just the Luxo team, but you guys, the community members, Alts, ETH, everyone behind the scenes as well. So yeah, it just showed me as well like how much the Luxo team have been working on it. Like these guys are grinding, putting in the hours, and like last to sleep. Like yeah, they're going crazy, and it motivates me. Like as a founder, it makes me wanna also push harder with what we're doing. So yeah, it's really great to connect with people here.
Yeah. How important do you feel like that is as a founder, coming to these events and like, meeting with the team and, building that community, you know what I mean? Like, how important is that for you as a person and for your project?
Yeah, to me, my personality, I'm more on the like emotional type as well. So I just love meeting new people, connecting, sharing ideas and stuff like that. So it helps me think about like some new ideas I could probably implement in my project, and and also I'm truly grateful that I could also meet with different like VCs, investors as well during this event. So that's been really fruitful for us. Trying to help us secure our pre-seed round, hopefully by the end of March. So that would be really great.
Can you talk a little bit about why you're building on Luxo, and kind of the abilities that the standards give you, that kind of help you with the project that you're working on?
Right. Yeah. So my main takeaway away from it is really, the new tools and standards that the team have produced allows us to make our solutions more user friendly, not just for consumers, but also for businesses and enterprises. Right. Because what we believe in is these people, these big brands who have millions of users, are going to be bringing blockchain to them, to the normal people. So that's where my conviction is. Although it's a long game, especially when you're dealing with massive corporations, there's a lot of bureaucracy and stuff like that. So it takes time, and yeah, I think it was slowly getting at it. And I also had a talk with a developer as well that has his hands in different chains, and he's been grilling me about why you're building in Luxo. You could probably do in other EVM chains and stuff like that, right? And it got me thinking, like, I think he's right in some way, and I think my rebuttal to that is really, we need these consumers or these normal users to care about digital ownership of why would they need these NFTs to earn it in Luxo. And I think my finding or conclusion that I gathered during this event is really the applications that's being built on Luxo is what will make people care to earn our assets. I think these are an important aspect that's really hard to relate in words, because I think people want to see it tangibly and play around with it. So I think time will tell that when these applications are being built on Luxo, and I think seeing from what people are building, I think we're getting there.
Yeah, and do the fact that it's basically identity system and profile based, do you feel like that is also like a big benefit for you reaching your customers and your end users?
Honestly, yes and no. From what I've gathered, especially from my own experience, people shouldn't really care too much about the digital assets itself. Like I feel like people will use it similar to like email, where it just becomes ubiquitous, right? Like it just becomes part of your life even. So it doesn't, although it's we're saying it's important now because it's something new. But I think down the line, people will just see it as another piece of technology that improves our lives, makes it more efficient, more benefit for society. So I think at this moment, like it is a big topic, and I think just how it is with adoption of new technology.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think down the line, I don't think digital identity will be this like big. I think it'll just be like a traffic light. It's just part
yeah,
of
it'll be
life.
like integrated into the
Correct.
system as a
Yeah.
whole, right? Yeah, and everything
Yeah.
will be kind of like interconnected and
Correct.
it'll work seamlessly, right?
And I think Luxor is the one pushing that.
Right.
I think they're the only ones that's really pushing that vision, and that's why I'm building on it, because I think I see it as well, and I align with it in terms of not just technically but also value-wise. So yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit more about your project? Just a quick elevator pitch of what it is and how it provides a unique value to your customers.
Yeah, so we're mainly tokenizing consumer physical products. So think like clothing, sneakers, phones, laptops, but mainly focused on the consumer electronics industry. So our main solution is called a digital product passport. In EU, they're mandating it for enterprises and brands to adopt a solution just for compliance and like environmental, social reasons. In basic terms, DPPs are basically a documentation of how, where, when, what the physical product's made out of. And so we're utilizing blockchain and NFTs to provide value on the secondary market for the big brands and enterprises. So adopting a solution allows them to have a financial incentive to adopt a solution compared to other stuff out there, right? Because DPPs have already been done by Ariani. There's a Web 2 way of doing it called by Scan Trust as well. So there's different ways of doing it, and I think our competitive edge is that we can provide a new path of revenue for these enterprises, and that's my vision, is that they will choose our solution because money at the end of the day, money talks at the end of the day. So yeah.
Are you finding a lot of companies that are looking to expand into Web3? Like being here, actually, it's amazing how much innovation is going on. There's so many entrepreneurs. Like it's like just a trove of like people that are like excited about blockchain and what it allows us to do. Are you getting that same kind of sense from like the corporations? That they're are they ready to move onto blockchain, or is it still like a little bit early for them?
They're definitely ready to move. I think
Okay.
it's not just enterprises and brands as well. It's governments. This DPP passports is not. It's been driven by the European Commission. So I think the real use cases of blockchain NFTs are definitely here, right? Funny because back in 2020, 2021, when NFTs were popping off, right? Like everyone was saying, oh, everything will be NFTs. And I think now technology and also culture, society are finally catching up to our mouths, right? So yeah, and speaking with enterprises, they know about like digital product passports and stuff like that. So it's definitely in people's awareness, especially in these massive corporations.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting more to that pivotal moment where, like for example, in AI, if you don't adopt to AI, you risk being left behind, right, by whoever does adopt the AI, right? So it's companies are considering an existential threat, I think blockchain has a similar potential where, because it creates so many new use cases and efficiencies, right? So if you're a business that is not thinking about the future, eventually you're going to get left behind.
100%.
Yeah. So Do you have any timelines for your project, or any like alpha you want to share with us, or?
So we're gonna be submitting um, 2 demos for the Hack the Grid hackathon that should hopefully showcase more of what we're doing to the public and to the community, and to give them a better idea of what we're talking about with tokenization and how we can provide extra value on the secondary market. So hopefully, instead of me trying to speak about it, they can play around and experience it for themselves. So that should be out by level 2 and level 3 in the Hack the Grid hackathon by Luxor. So I don't want to say too much, and hopefully they can see what we submit. We'll release some stuff over there, and also we're in the process of raising a pre-seed round as well, and we should be able to close that out in a couple months, or hopefully earliest end of March. So yeah, just slowly building at it, and really here for the long term.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, well, how can people reach out to you or get in touch with you if they have any more questions?
Just reach out to me on Twitter, Family LYX, DM. Also on Telegram as well. I'm active over there. So any feedback or anything like that, feel free to DM me. But yeah.
Okay, cool, man. Well, I'm excited about your project, so I can't
thanks
wait to
for-
see
yeah.
more from you.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're gonna go to a little break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully, you're appreciating the live stream. Some to interviews coordinated by Metaversal. They actually do pretty hard to get everybody together and in this, I don't know, room together to hang out, chat box. So maybe give an insight to what's cooking behind the scenes. Next up, you can see him. He's already sitting there. Vega, the man behind Jimmy Jr., and behind Streamgate. So when we are ready to go again, we bring Dan and Vega back, and we can have a conversation about, I don't know, whatever Dan wants to talk about. So actually, Metaverse is in right now. Metaverse.
Are you headquartered in a little? At like the last one at the end? Can I watch?
Yeah, sure. I'll go. 5 minutes. I guess I'm going to hop on to have a conversation with Metaverse as well. So yeah, hopefully again everybody's enjoying this. We're doing it for you because it's something that we're not doing it for any reason than to just kind of give you an insight into what's happening in the village. We're actually just from the computer standpoint, we're literally in the lobby of the hotel. People are working all around us, but we feel it's important to give insight into what happens at a conference, what happens on the ground, how hard people are actually working because people are pretty hard. If you wonder what's going on, which trust me, John has foregone a lot of fun we've been having. This is working constantly. You guys are constantly working towards a goal. So I guess if spin here in the middle of a 2 hour live stream, so oh well, too bad. Maybe I'll make some time. All right, I'm going to take this back off and get the cameras all set again, and then we're going to go so you can sorry, Metaverse is actually getting ready. So let me myself start switching the background here, settings, and back to
All right, we're back. I'm here with the Vega, the founder of Streamgate. How you doing, man?
What's going on? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just-
Yeah, you got your own channel, don't you? No, man, we had a pretty cool conversation over dinner. Talking about your journey, in music, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought maybe you could share a little bit about that. Just talk about your journey as an artist and how you decided to kind of go onto the blockchain and work with Luxo and where things are going.
I think a lot of people in the space know me from making music with the CloneX character, and that kind of was realized immediately upon a roadmap of 3D files. Always been a fan of the gorillas. Gorillas are basically using avatars themselves for their music, and familiar with a lot of the coming out of Japan. So they've been doing VTubing and like hologram performances for a while, and it's crazy. Like a little hologram girl character will sell out like a stadium basically, and there's nobody there, just a hologram girl just dancing. So a lot of potential in digital characters and avatars, especially for longevity. But when I started releasing music in Web3, it was mostly just NFTs. And it's important to me that what I do has a good impact on people, because we see so much like community, like things going bad, people getting toxic, people getting angry and upset, and I don't want to be the cause of that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I bought this guy's thing, 2 years ago for $3,000 and it never did anything for me. So I really put a lot of thought into what I guess utility or what usage that these NFTs would have, and it kind of came to like a natural conclusion that like everything eventually is downhill unless you develop like infrastructure for like making it work. So like music in the space is terrible right now. Like there's just no good solution. Nobody wants to leave convenience and leave the platform. So that's why I started building on Luxo for infrastructure for music streaming and incentives and stuff like that, so that people can come into Web3 and have an actual connection between the music and the technology. Otherwise, we're just making stuff up like, hey, if you buy this, you get this, and it's just like something where maybe it's realized, maybe it's not.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about like Streamgate and like what you're working on there, and like how, kind of like how it works,
Yeah, so Streamgate, it's incentivizing listening. I always tell people, like right now as it sits, your incentive for listening to music is that you like it, and that's it. There's nothing beyond that. You either like it or you don't. You become a fan, and maybe you go like follow the tours, but that's completely out of your pocket. So I felt like it'd be a good idea to introduce a layer of incentive for the listeners, defined by artist challenges that the artist could set and say, hey, like, listen to my song X amount of times in a set duration, and you get, whatever reward is, as well as, accumulating points on the platform itself, so that even if the artist doesn't, hold up their end of the deal, you still get like points like you're at Dave & Buster's, right? You do enough challenges, you go to the store, you get some headphones, you can buy a sponsor or something like that. So that's essentially what it is. Just building it out and excited to get it out there.
Do you see like a synergy there with like the universal profiles and the identity, kind of like how it's set up as a social platform, basically to to be able to get like the reach that you need, to your
Definitely.
users.
I mean, yeah, that's why we have the universal profile integration, and you basically can't have a Streamgate account without having a universal profile. So it's good for linking, like you said, social information with a leaderboard even. So like, artists can identify who the top fans are by the number. Like, hey, these are my top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that have listened the most, and now that's connected to a profile which has a wallet. So if there's any, potential rewards that somebody wants to say, like, I want to, give back to my top people, it's like identifiable by the the wallet. So that's tight.
How did you first meet Luxo? It was just like one of these conferences, or it's been a while, huh?
I mean, yeah, just people I know.
Yeah. Just where it gets around, right?
Just people I know.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So, you have any kind of roadmap or anything, or timeline, like next, milestones that you got coming up? Or?
We do have the milestones that we're looking to achieve based on the grant. So like for the grant application, we had to set up milestones, and so we have kind of, I guess, a roadmap in that sense. But what we're working towards is getting best user experience. A lot of people have been waiting on Streamgate, and sorry, it's it's where it's ready, it's built, everything's good to go, but it's just best.
It's the way it goes.
Best user experience is important. Based on where the API is right now and where the data refresh rate is, it's like the information will refresh like every 15 to 30 minutes, and that's bad user experience, right? Like if you listen to the song, like you want it to reflect immediately so that you can prove that you've done, that's the whole thing. It's like proof of stream, right? So not proof of stream 30 minutes later. So that's the holdup, I guess. But as far as like milestones goes, the first thing we want to do is get like 15 serious artists to commit at least 50 fans, like bringing 50 fans. So you think about it, the math is like 750 people or something like that. A lot of those people would be new to blockchain in general, so it'd be like first time, universal profile or Luxo users. And I think it's a good way to onboard people that have nothing to do with the tech itself, but like just love music and want to be rewarded for it.
All right, well, cool, man. I'm like totally excited about your project.
Thank you.
I've been actually following you a little bit. I think I tried to set up. I think you had like a testing phase or something, but I didn't get in on that. But actually, I heard that was pretty popular.
It went way better than we thought.
Yeah, we had some people in the community like listening to the music like on repeat. So it seems like a really cool thing that can go viral. You know what I mean? Like it has a lot of potential. So.
Well, that's one of the things that we have to fight against a little bit, because the streaming platforms don't like that. They look at that as like artificial stream boosting, and they have to pay artists more because of the royalties. But it makes it kind of interesting because people get competitive about it, and people are messaging me like, hey, like this was really fun because now I can see where I'm at on a leaderboard in comparison to the next person. Say like you're number 24, but number 23 is only 5 streams away, so you might as well just bang them out, right? So there were people, like the challenge for the week was to listen to the song like 10 or 15 times, and there were people that did it 300 times. So it's just competitive.
And do you see like a future where you like issue like fan tokens or something, like based on like the top fans, what I mean? Whoever, say you're I'm number 1 listening to like someone's stream, like because like one of the things that I know that Luxo is working on is building out like a fan coin kind of abilities, So I think that might be something that would be really cool to kind of integrate into that in the future,
It is possible. When Fabian had originally told me that like it'd be a good idea for each artist to have their own, token through the site that could be like a sort of reward, function. I didn't really like the idea because it seemed to me like it was missing a component. A lot of the tokens in the space we know are based on like hype and speculation, and so like people could be doing the work and then getting nothing for it in the end if the coin isn't worth anything.
Yeah.
But then I launched my own coin as a junior, and the missing piece to me was the fact that using like agentic functions, Junior himself will buy his own coin back with his streaming royalties. And so now, like regardless of if the coin like goes to zero, like somebody will still be buying it. So there will still be at least some value in it, regardless if he's buying it with his streaming royalties, and then his streaming royalties are being charged with the platform itself. So it's like a cyclical process. I think that if people set up that across the board, that could be a reason for that. But if we're missing that component, it gets really tricky with coins that could amount to nothing.
Right. Yeah, you definitely have to, like, you don't want to be. Blockchain has sort of a bad reputation in general, right?
Yeah.
For like the scammer and everything, right? You have a fan base, right? And if you all of a sudden are rugging your fan base, and then like that's something very like important for an artist. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it could be another use case as well if they did have like a sort of loosely associated like platform store where their merchandise was purchasable with that specific coin, but that also kind of gets a little bit messy and trying to make that happen.
Well, I mean, like I think where things are going, and that what Luxo will actually allow people to do. One of the things like I'm excited about is that it will actually, like, if I wanted to give my community rewards, I could say, you know what, you're gonna get in like to this event, right? Maybe you get a free ticket to get in. Maybe you get to go backstage. Maybe you get to meet with me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so like, it's not that the token's gonna be worthless, because it's worth something to them. And the value is really based on like, what is that value to your fan base, right? So like, if I value like, those things, like, getting to spend time with you, or getting an inside look at maybe a production you're doing or something, and then someone else has a certain value on it, it creates its own market, right?
Yes, but one of the things that you have